Welcome to the On List. As you can tell by the title of the video, we are talking about fragrance arbitrage. Everything is limited and rare these days. Everything. It's a little bit silly because it seems like the whole idea of everything being so desirable and everything being the next new gotta have it thing, the whole FOMO frenzy I mentioned several videos back, that has become part of a staple, I feel, in the current hobbyist climate, not just for perfumes, but for a lot of things, right? Any collectible hobby, we have seen an acceleration of novelty and an acceleration of anxiety-induced spending, where it's almost become an addiction to keep up, to have the latest and greatest, to have the thing that is going to be the deal maker or deal breaker of whether or not you are true, legitimate, valid collector of X product, of X thing. So you want to be a real frag head. You want to be a real cologne dude or whatever. You want to be a real serious player in the game, right? You want to upgrade your game. It's all about social ladder climbing and such. You got to have this release. You got to have that release. But they're all limited and rare. They're all better catch it while you can, or you're going to miss out and everyone else is going to waggle their finger at you. And it's not just discontinued fragrances. Yes, discontinued fragrances are a large part of it, okay. And FOMO frenzy, as I said several videos back, is also part of it. But here's the part of it that you may not be thinking about, the part that may not be readily apparent to you or obvious. And that's the phenomenon I mentioned in the previous video, where I discussed the shape of things to come. And I talked about pump and dump. I talked about venture capitalists or vulture capitalists dumping a bunch of money into luxury brands to have a huge windfall when they crank out sales and give them that return on investment. And then before the bubble bursts, they dump that into someone else's lap like, you know, a hot potato, like a time bomb, and then watch it blow up on that other person who then gets taken to the cleaners while they laugh all the way to the bank because they got in and got out. They bought the dip and made the flip, right? As people like to say. And it's created a bit of a poisoning, if you will, of the well. Because these days, you can't really buy anything anymore without being subject to this whole limited rare stigma. Even brand new releases. Brand new releases that come out, everyone is so scared they're going to get discontinued in a year's time. So you run out and you buy 3 of them. Brand new release. Probably not even going to run through a single bottle in your life, but you buy 3 because just in case. Because I can sell one, right? I can trade one out. Or if I don't, if I use it a lot, I'm glad I have a backup. But then you've got like 500 bottles of perfume. Different bottles of perfume. Like I've reached the point now where I don't buy backups anymore. And all the backups of things I have, I look at with regret. So, and as I've made mention plenty of times, I am trying to offload the backups to people who I think will use them, or trade them to people who I think will use them in exchange for things I don't own, right? So that's been my whole modus operandi for the last 2 or 3 years, is to liquidate the backups and add variety, because I'm 42 years old, and if I'm lucky to live another 42 years, I'll be 84 years old, and by that point, I will give no fucks about what my skin smells like anymore. So, right? Just enjoying what I have and buying things that are going to make me happy and not buying extra things that I'm afraid I might stand to lose at some point. But none of that really applies to the selling side of it, though. That's all just, once again, looping back around to the whole FOMO thing and the whole anxiety thing. What I'm really trying to touch upon in this video is the whole idea of everything being a limited edition, everything being rare, and all of it is for the sake of arbitrage, for the sake of investment, for buying it with the intent to profit on it, rather than buying it with the intent to use it with the intent to enjoy it. You see it as a poker chip, as a bargaining device for a greater thing in the future. Now, I'm not saying everyone is buying perfume to flip investment and put their kids through college or buy a house with or a new car. That's not it. There are some people who do that, but by and large, it's the whole mentality of this is limited, this is rare, so I buy this because I could profit from it in some way, rather than buying it to crack open that bottle, spray it on your skin, and enjoy it, right? The fact that it's limited or rare shouldn't make much of a difference if you're a large collector anyway and have a wide variety of perfumes. Again, you're never going to get through that bottle. But if you have that fear that you will diminish its value by opening it, you will diminish its asset classification by spraying some of it, you got to keep it in the bottle brand new, unused. You have to keep it in the sealed box. You turn your house into a literal perfume store. You don't have a collection anymore. You have inventory now. And then all these same cats do exactly that. They buy all these fragrances. They buy backups of the fragrances, right? They'll buy the one bottle to use. Then they'll buy 3 more to invest in. And then you do that times, let's say you've got 500 different fragrances. 500 times 3 is what, guys? 1,500. You now have 1,500 bottles of perfume in your house. And I think that's actually against fire code for a lot of places. That's too much flammable liquid. You need to have a specially classified storage area to contain that much flammable liquid in your house, or the fire marshal could come and fine you and force you to get rid of it, right? Because you're not a store. You're not renting a storefront. You live in a house, okay? It's not commercial property. It's residential property. But you don't give a shit because you're like, oh, this is rare and limited. I need 3 of these, you know? And then you've got some brands that can really justify it. And even though I'm not a big fan of the FOMO frenzy houses, like the artisanal houses that only make 100 bottles, only make 50 bottles, and they spam their Instagrams and they spam their other social media platforms of, oh, I'm releasing this fragrance, there's only going to be 100 of these, and then everyone just goes absolutely crazy. I'm not a fan of the brands that do that, but at least I can justify it by saying that it's handmade, one person's doing it. So one person's only going to reasonably be able to make so much perfume at a time anyway. So if that one person is only making 100 bottles, 500 bottles, 1,000 bottles maybe, with some help from friends, I hope, right? They can justifiably say this is limited and rare because it truly, well, it is. But when it's these manufactured rarity brands, when it's these big-time luxury houses, designers with the limited flankers, whoever it is, this stuff is mass-produced, okay? It is made in factories. It is compounded. It is manufactured in the same places that everything is. It is not that limited. It is not that rare. So when that stuff filters down into the reselling side of things, and suddenly the resellers get it, they're like, oh, got to double the price, triple the price. And you're like, okay, sure. I mean, do that. But at that point, unless you've got unlimited space in your house, or you are already running a retail store and you have a warehouse, you can't sit on that stuff forever. You know, you're the douchebag who goes out to the TJ Maxx, the douchebag who goes out to the Ross. And I've seen this. I've been to those stores and witnessed the guys with the smirk and the sunglasses, the Oakleys on, and they're going up to the men's fragrance section, and they know that a certain fragrance got discontinued recently, or a limited flanker got flushed out, or new packaging came through and an old packaging is not around, and they'll get like all 10 bottles of that, scoop up all of the recently put out the pasture Cartier fragrance or something, and they'll just stick them all in their cart and they go to the counter. And they're buying 10 bottles of this because they have big plans to put it on eBay. They have big plans to flip it for 3 times the price, right? It's like all the guys who went nuts when the Blue Electrique came out, and it was a limited edition flanker for La Nuit de l'Homme. YSL, by the way, is very infamous for this whole limited and rare thing. YSL under L'Oreal, absolute garbage, puts out these flankers every year, every 6 months, and then gets rid of them in just that many months. So you have just enough time to make your way down to the Macy's, just enough time to make your way down to the Nordstrom, smell the damn thing. If you don't buy it that time you see it at the counter, the next time you're at the store, it's gone already. And there's a different one in its place. Din, 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 bang, 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 like that. And these aren't like limited runs. They're making millions of these when they do this each time. But again, they all get flushed out in discounters. And then the arbitrage guys, the asset flip guys, run out and buy 11 of them. They literally go on the fragrance net and fill their cart with like 30 bottles of the fragrance. So at like $60 a pop or whatever, that's like, you know, they're paying like $1,500 in a single order of fragrance at this discounted retail price. And then once they get all the inventory, they have the hopes of putting it on their eBay store and sell it for $150 and make 3 times their money back. And now they just turned $1,500 hopefully into $4,500, hopefully, if they sell it all. And they might sell 5 or 10 of those, but then the other 20 just sit there. And that's the problem, guys. That's the whole thing, is not everything can be limited and rare. And because we've allowed this whole corporate pump and dump idea, the whole idea that I mentioned with the luxury brands, buying it up, pumping it full of cash, flipping it, we're applying that now on a small level with all of these limited releases, with all of these smaller houses that put out fragrances that might get a single run, with flankers, with packaging changes, and you can say it's the old batch or whatever, and just people are doing it with like Brut. Like I saw someone list a bottle of Brut, limited and rare, for $200. And that very same bottle I could find for like $20 on a different listing somewhere else. And I'm just hoping that some idiot doesn't go, oh, limited and rare, look at that, and then buys that $200 bottle of $20 worth of Brut. Yeah, it's a Fabergé bottle, okay, but it's like an 80s bottle. So it's a spray bottle, it's not a splash. You know, it's got the Greenwich, Connecticut address on it. It's not the original New York address or whatever. So yeah, it's old. It's a 40-year-old bottle of Brut, okay? It's still old. But there's so many of that bottle out there. There are still cans of the shave cream. The Brut shave cream was discontinued 20 years ago. 20 years ago it was discontinued. There's still cans of shave cream out there. Unused. Some grandpa bought it, put it in his cabinet, never touched it. So you can't tell me it's rare, it's limited and rare, you know? Every single pressing of a vinyl album is not limited and rare. You dig up your grandma's copy of Led Zeppelin II, okay, with a whole lot of love on it. You dig up her copy of Led Zeppelin II that she bought from the record store when she was 16, okay? And you stick it on eBay and call it limited and rare. And I laugh, because that was a platinum selling record. There are millions of that record out there, especially like the Atlantic pressing, right? The U.S. Atlantic pressing. And it's your mom's old beat-up copy of Led Zeppelin II. Limited and rare. It's $400. Like this. And all the FOMO people, those, I can't miss out. Oh, I can't miss out. Man, Christ, y'all are so stupid sometimes. Not you guys watching this video. Apparently, if you're watching this video, you're smart because you know the deal, you know what's up. But just the rest of y'all, though, holy shit. You know? Just amazes me. Very recently with the whole Guerlain thing, where Guerlain switched out all their bottles. They got rid of all the B bottles and downgraded 25 mil. So they're not 100 mil, they're 75 mil now. And they got rid of all their Listerine bottles, as we used to call them, the square ones. and they replaced them with the even more square ones. They went from square to square, from rectangle to square, technically, I guess, rectangle to square. Those didn't drop, though. Those stayed 100 mil. So the men's stuff kept 100 mil. Women's stuff went down to 75 mil. Whatever, okay? But all those bottles, when they hit discounters, they got swept away so fast. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, everyone and their mother with an eBay store. Everyone and their mother with an Etsy. Everyone and their mother with some kind of resell, store went to Fragrance Net, Fragrance X, all the different discounters, and bought up all these bottles that were all $25, $35, $40 a bottle at most, right? Bought them all up. Stuck them on eBay for $150. It's the same number of bottles. The same, like, whatever, 2 million bottles of Heritage that were out there. The same, like, 2 million bottles of whatever, L'Enstop de Galan or something, okay? One of the other, Galan Homme, all right? The Listerine bottles. The same, like, 2 million bottles of that have been out there for forever. They're just in the hands of a different group now. That's what makes it so stupid. The same bottles. It's not limited and rare, guys. It just moved from one place to another. It went from this seller, who had it for a reasonable price, to this seller, who wants to gouge the fuck out of you. For no reason besides they think you're going to fall for the limited and rare, right? And then investment, because they think that you're going to buy it at an already inflated price because you think it's going to go even higher, because you have hopes that the 150 you bought it for is still the dip, right? That's the thing. Every poor person thinks they're a millionaire in waiting, that their time hasn't come yet. So they spend all their money like that time's going to come and they'll get it all back. So it's the same thing, right? All of the first wave parasites who bought up all the discount bottles, marked them up triplicate to 150, from 50 to 150, sitting back like this because they think the next wave is going to come and they're going to buy them all at 150 and then put them up to 300. And it's going to continue. You're going to keep finding the potato, right? Pump and dump, just like the luxury brands. It's the same phenomenon, but on an individual scale rather than on a corporate scale. Pass the potato to the next person, make it hotter each time around. It's just pump it up a little more. Pump and dump, pump and dump. And eventually, that last person in that chain who gets that potato, right, the sucker who pays $300 for it now, thinks they're going to flip it for $6 and realizes it's peaked. That every idiot, every bless their heart, mother's son hiding under mommy's apron, 2 brain cells to rub together, is going to pay that just extortionate price, that $400, $500, whatever price for that bottle of perfume that still has like 2 million bottles, like I said. It's not rare. It's not really rare. Not really limited. And they're going to buy that. And then it hits market cap. And that's it. They're done. Now they have a $500 bottle of a $40 perfume. And they're stuck with it. So then there comes the FOMO part of, oh, well, I've got to convince myself this is a masterpiece. I've got to convince myself this is a work of art. I gotta do the cognitive dissonance thing of, oh, well, one side of me says that I got ripped off, but the other side of me says, no, I'm too smart for that. There's no way I could be ripped off. So now I got to do a little song, do a little dance, tap dance on my cane here, take my hat and go like this, and tell all you guys in a YouTube video that this $500 thing that should only be $50, just put a zero on it, right, is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Meanwhile, it's still being made in a different bottle, sold by the original house still at a retail price that is a fraction of what you paid for yours. But mine's the older one. it's the better formula, and it's like 6 months older. It's not like an actual gold cap bottle of Heritage, okay? It's not like an actual Koros from the Squib days, right? We're talking like maybe a 2-year-old bottle of perfume. But again, the limited and rare thing and the investment of I'm going to buy this, I'm going to sit on it, it's going to become more valuable, and then I'm going to offload it. People who don't even really have any interest in the perfumes. They don't even have any real interest in wearing the stuff. And it just, once again, it hurts the hobbyists, doesn't it, right? It hurts the hobbyists. The limited and rare thing hurts the hobbyists because they just want to have the perfume and smell it and enjoy it, right? Sure, backups, I guess, but not necessarily. Maybe one bottle is all they need. But it can't all be limited and rare, you know? Russian Atom stuff is limited and rare. You know, Orige Lador stuff in general, limited and rare. A lot of artisanal brands, that's one person doing the whole thing, are limited and rare, okay? A lot of your really super limited run collections from brands like Raja Dove, you know, and even though I don't like the luxury brands, I made videos about the hustle, right? I will concede a point. I will concede a point that a lot of those luxury brands are very small production numbers. Raja Dove does not crank out millions of bottles. You know, Xerjoff does not crank out millions of bottles. Fragrance Dubois, same thing. Not millions of bottles. Andy Tower, no, not millions of bottles. So those are arguably limited and rare because of virtue of number. The number of examples that exist. So if you use it up, yes, you may never be able to replace it. If you use up your bottle of a certain Bortnikov or a certain Slumber House, that may be it. You may be done. You will have memories of that perfume, but you will never see it again. That's fair, and that is fair. But most of these macro luxury brands or macro niche brands or designers, houses like Guerlain, Caron, Chanel, no, there's no way in hell. Any of that. Even those exclusive collections, the less exclusives or whatever, or the Maison, Christian Dior stuff, not limited and rare. Maybe more limited than a bottle of Sauvage or more limited than a bottle of number 19, but not limited in the larger sense of the word, okay? Still mass produced in a factory. So the whole idea that every new release is limited and rare is just poisoning the well. It's a gimmick to trigger the FOMO. And I've done the videos on the FOMO already. I'm not trying to tread that water again, but this is the seller side of it, the arbitrage side of it. And you play the game, you buy the stuff, thinking you're going to profit off of it, whether you're going to use it or not. I mean, some people will say, well, buy a bottle to use, and then buy a bottle to sell or whatever. But they can't all be Maltese Falcons. They can't all be the Jewel of the Nile, okay? They're not all going to be the freaking Ark of the Covenant. You're going to open it up and your eyeballs are going to melt. They can't all be that, okay? If every fragrance, this is where I'm going to leave it for you guys. I'm going to cap it here, stop it here. If every fragrance is limited and rare, then no fragrance is limited and rare, right? It cancels itself out. If they are all limited and rare, then none of them actually are. This has been The Unlist. Thanks for watching.